plant protein quantities for muscle gain in holistic principles involving bodybuilding and weight training are interdependent on energy surplus or caloric surplus in line with physiological aim. What differentiates bodybuilders is the pursuit of muscle hypertrophy, which is one of its primary aims, as well as strength and power development, although this may depend on the overall objectives. For example, the difference between aesthetic aims and the objective of power development. Bodybuilding to any level requires method, system, and personal commitment, which enables the experience of physiological transformation. Some of these principles also apply to other types of resistance and endurance training, but caloric surplus is used slightly differently. Additionally, holistic suggests that balance is fundamental to bodybuilding because physiological well-being is essential to the process. This is one of the key reasons why recovery foods, plant supplements, and techniques are integral to achieving transformation. So where does plant protein fit into muscle development and can it be optimized? Is it adequate compared to other sources, such as animal proteins or supplements? In this segment, we overview factors in relation to muscle development, specifically focusing on proteins obtained from plant sources from real whole foods. Looking at the important relationship of protein behavior, quantity, and combining food sources that create complete protein. As suggested in our previous video, holistic protein, whole food plant proteins are recognized as important elements of a diet due to their invaluable advantages beyond muscle development, including several anti-inflammatory properties and medicinal effects. To add further insight, we'll refer to helpful, reputable case studies examining the sufficiency of protein obtained from plant sources for bodybuilding and athletic purposes. Modern-day research now increasingly highlights the beneficial role of natural, whole plant-based foods in preventing lifestyle-related non-communicable diseases. These are interlinked with long-term and a high intake of unnatural and ultra-processed foods. Holistic diets not only aid in prevention strategies, but also positively impact the management and, in some cases, regression of diet-induced ailments. Recognizing the importance of what we eat to fuel the body is fundamental to holistic practices, though it can sometimes be easy to overlook. Whether plant-based diets can fuel muscle growth just as effectively as animal protein-rich diets is a popular question in the modern day when considering training nutrition. Within itself, it is a sort of revelation questioning the popular understanding that bodybuilding success is predominantly limited to animal protein. In modern times, bodybuilding has evolved into a deliberate pursuit, driven by diverse motivations, such as competitive sports, aesthetics, and overall fitness. Unlike ancient times, where muscular development often resulted naturally from daily labor and a lifestyle closely connected to nature, contemporary bodybuilding emphasizes intentional muscle growth through regimented training and targeted nutrition. Another important point is that in ancient times, the food consumed was largely unprocessed and nutrient-dense, as commercial agriculture was minimal, leading to a natural purity in diets that supported physiology and physical strength. This contrasts sharply with today's environment, where convenience foods and supplements dominate, sometimes at the expense of whole food sources. Historical systems like Ayurveda recognize the importance of holistic health and the interconnectedness of diet and physical well-being, offering frameworks for intentional bodybuilding that honored this relationship, focusing on the body's needs and individual constitution. In this way, both ancient practices and modern intentions converge, highlighting the timeless quest for strength and vitality, but through vastly different means. Next, we look into a few relevant modern-day terms in deliberate bodybuilding and training. 1. What is energy surplus? Energy surplus occurs when the number of calories consumed exceeds the number of calories expended through metabolic processes and physical activity. For instance, intentionally consuming a caloric surplus to promote muscle growth. This surplus provides the body with additional energy, which can be utilized for various functions, including muscle growth or fat storage. It's an essential, workable principle in holistics, nutrition, and physiological fitness. In a predominantly plant-based diet, bodybuilders may need to pay closer attention to their sources of energy and protein calculations to ensure they achieve an adequate surplus. In particular, individuals looking to gain weight or build muscle typically apply caloric surplus intermittently as part of a personalized regime, as consistently maintaining a caloric surplus may influence weight increase over time. Caloric surplus is a highly systemized and methodical use of particular nutrients and in specific amounts. This is popularly known as a bulking phase and attributed to being a late 20th century term in context of bodybuilding and training. During a bulking phase, many bodybuilders aim for a caloric surplus for approximately 8 to 16 weeks. This allows for muscle gain while minimizing fat accumulation. And this can apply to bodybuilding at any desired weight based on individual physiology. Typically, this means a 10 to 15% increase above individual daily maintenance calories. This is added on top of maintenance caloric requirements. A caloric surplus can be consumed by taking 15 to 20% more calories than your total daily energy expenditure, TDEE, or PAL physical activity level, which includes resting metabolic rate, RMR. For example, if your TDE is 2,500 calories, aiming for a surplus would mean consuming 2,875 calories in total calories daily based on 15% caloric surplus. Energy requirements and maintenance requirements differ by individual. Therefore, a personalized calculation should be given importance. But it's not solely about caloric intake. It is also about the quality of nutrients in that additional caloric intake. 2. Complete protein. A complete protein is a single or combined food source that contains all 9 essential amino acids. For example, a plant-based complete protein that contains all 9 essential amino acids necessary for overall physiological function and purposeful improvement. This may often include a combination of types of foods, such as lentils, beans, ancient grains such as quinoa, millet, black rice, amaranth, seeds, etc., to provide a full amino acid profile. Although all 9 essential amino acids are important elements of a bodybuilding diet, leucine is associated with triggering muscle protein synthesis, MPS, which is a key process that helps the body build new substances, cells, and tissues through foods. Here, we are referring to protein amino acids obtained from real, whole food plant sources when cooked and combined, and not supplements alone. Also, it is suggested that for optimal muscle protein synthesis in intentional bodybuilding, the aim for a daily leucine intake of around 2 to 3 grams per meal from real foods, or a total of 7 to 10 grams per day, distributed across meals, should be factored in. However, requirements vary according to individual needs. To demonstrate in terms of plant-based sources, we take the example of red lentils. Approximately a cup, 198 grams, of cooked red lentils contains 1.3 grams of leucine and 18 grams of protein, depending on the quality of the lentil and how it's cooked. Additionally, Moultescu et al. 2024 state that red lentil have a higher protein digestibility of between 79.3 to 84.7%. Red lentil was characterized by higher contents of leucine, lysine, phenylalanine, valine, isoleucine, threonine, histidine, aspartic acid, alanine, and serine. However, when considering the PDCAAS score, which is the ability of protein to provide the required essential amino acid for the human body, green mung bean had a higher score compared to red lentil, despite its dense attributes. Nonetheless, in spite of their differences, both red lentil and green mung bean offer high-level plant protein quality when combined with other sources of plant proteins such as grains, beans, and seeds. Similarly, Moultescu et al. 2024 also suggests that changes in amino acid concentration occur during different types of legume treatments. Protein digestibility refers to the extent to which a protein is broken down into its constituent amino acids, making them available for absorption within the gastrointestinal tract. Among the anti-nutritional factors, protease inhibitors, tannins, and phytates have the greatest impact on digestibility from legumes and unrefined grains. Cooking methods for legumes lead to an increase in protein digestibility. Two of the best methods applied to cooking and consuming legumes are pre-soaking, which diminishes less than 1 to 3% amounts of proteins, and boiling thoroughly in water helps protein digestion with under 10% loss of protein value. Processing legumes leads to an increase in protein digestibility. Similarly, Goldman et al. 2024 found that completely plant-based diets scaled to meet the caloric demands of maximal skeletal muscle hypertrophy and strength development in adult male bodybuilders satisfy protein, leucine, and essential micronutrient requirements necessary for maximizing resistance exercise training, induced gains in muscle mass and strength. Specifically, suggesting that intakes for nutrients of interest were calculated as 1.8 gram per kilogram per day of protein and 2.75 gram per meal of leucine, which surpass mean requirements for maximal increases in muscle mass and strength and muscle protein synthesis, respectively. Another important recognition in this study, one which holistic sciences have maintained a clear connection with, is that there appears to be a disconnect between dietary recommendations for the amelioration of chronic diseases and increased muscular development, suggesting an either-or choice of long-term health or athletic pursuits. Further that, bodybuilders also consume large quantities of dietary protein, sourced mainly from meat and eggs. Animal-based protein-rich foods and supplements may displace key nutrient-rich foods in these dietary patterns, where insufficient intake of fruits and vegetables has been reported in nearly half of gym users. The key points of Goldman et al. 2024 states that completely plant-based diets can meet the caloric needs for optimal muscle hypertrophy and strength in male bodybuilders, satisfying protein, leucine, and essential micronutrient requirements, except with the exception of vitamin D. These diets exceed the recommended intakes for protein and leucine necessary for muscle development, suggesting alignment between dietary guidelines for chronic disease prevention and sports nutrition. Overall, it supports that athletes on plant-based diets can achieve muscle-building goals while maintaining well-being. Case reports have also indicated that well-trained bodybuilding and powerlifting subjects following plant-based diets achieved protein intakes ranging from 2.0 to 3.5 gram per kilogram per day through a combination of whole foods and supplements. The diets involved whole plant foods such as legumes and grains. Emerging evidence indicates that consumption of whole food protein sources effectively augments muscular development and recovery from exercise. The selection of more calorically dense foods such as whole grains, nuts, and foods prepared with added healthy fats, as compared to fruits and vegetables alone, may enable higher energy intakes countering the fiber quantity satiety aspect. Lastly, it can often be the case whereby energy surplus is approached in a combined way, using both real whole plant-based foods as well as other sources in lesser percentages. Overall, plant-based diets, when adequately balanced and efforted, so to speak, can meet high-quality protein requirements for everyday nutrition as well as specific athletic goals. Holistic approaches emphasize that a bodybuilding diet should not exclude therapeutic components. Instead, these essentials should be integrated to achieve favorable outcomes for both body aesthetics and the inner well-being that supports them. Finally, these sources of nutrition carry several anti-aging advantages. Subject to individual suitability and individual health status.